What's going on, G1s? Tom the Airman here, coming back with another TexaVlog. We are back in the Econo Lodge in Lewinsville. This journey is ending slowly the same way it began, in the confines of an Econo Lodge. So we're going to go ahead and check in with all the goings-on that has been today, Monday. It started with waking up at about 8:30. It was about that time Vinny, big boss of Moss, was heading out. Lexi had left in the dark of night earlier. She had to bow out at about like 2 a.m. So by the time we got back to the hotel room and had the voodoo donuts and all that fun stuff and tried to watch as much of the WWE pay-per-view Great Balls of Fire as much as we could, she decided to go and just head down to the lobby and hang out there. So we said our goodbyes to her that evening before Vinny left that morning. And then it was just me and Wordman. He went ahead and went downstairs and got a cart and got all of his stuff taken care of and brought out to his vehicle. But perplexingly, he didn't leave the cart with me because we used it together to get all of our stuff out of our respective cars. I don't know why he didn't bring it back up. And when he did go and get it, the bellhop would not leave it, and we weren't ready to take it, so we ended up making 3 trips. You know, it's unfortunate. It took more time than I had expected. And I ended up getting out of there a little bit later than that as a direct result of that. But it is what it is, and we got through it. But also, not as many people partook of the voodoo donuts last night. People did enjoy them, make no mistake. But I think it was that I got back too late for them to be fully enjoyed. Also, it was getting very close to midnight, and we had all had a rather large dinner at the corner. So I decided to, rather than let them go to bed, because I clearly can't take them with me, I volunteered some to the ladies that were at the reception desk that were helping me check out. And they were totally blown away, and they'd said they'd been working in Austin for some time and have never made their way down to Voodoo Donuts. So this was their first Voodoo Donut experience. And one of them regrettably took the eclair with the Oreo crunch topping, but whatever. It is what it is. So after we got checked out of there, the game plan today was to meet up with Danger Boy John Brunuge, and meet up with him and go to Game Over. They have 2 locations in Austin, one on Lamar Street and another one on West Anderson Road. And we were going to go to the one on West Anderson because that's where the video game museum is. That's the one that Craig and Tom went to back in 2007. Goodness gracious, where is the time gone? So we were going to meet up there and then go back to the one on Lamar Street because there is a professional ramen restaurant right there. And that's where we're going to have lunch and then park company. Around the time that I was making my way over there, I got a hot text from Gerardo Mejia, Hybrid Rain, wanting to know if anybody was still in town and did they want to hang out. Well, like I said, Gerardo is my internet brother, and I knew that he had made mention that the Screw Attack guys were getting Monday off. So he went ahead and reached out to me, and I in turn reached out to him and then asked John if it would be okay if he could tag along with us, and he said abso-freaking-lutely. So went ahead, picked him up, but I was a little confused. When I plugged in his address, it was taking me from one part of Austin to the other that was suspiciously towards the same location that was Game Over on West Anderson Road. And as it turns out, his apartment is like a half a mile up the street from that location, and he had no idea that his place of dwelling was very close to one of the heritage video game stores in the area. Small world. Surprising and crazy. And I'm just checking the time on the battery because I decided to record without checking, and that's very, very dumb. Don't ever do that, kids. Don't ever do that. So these things normally run sometimes a half an hour, and it says I got 39 minutes, so let's make it count, damn it. So we went ahead, picked him up, went back over to Game Over, and then about that time, that's when John showed up. So he went inside. His wife, Laurie, was there with him. It was wonderful. It's the first time I've actually got a chance to meet her. She was down here last year for SGC, but I didn't get a chance to meet her. So that was very nice to finally have a name to a face and a face to a name. Went inside, stepped through the door. They took a look around, and Laurie just said, "We're home," which was a huge vote of confidence to me because Game Over is a very important place for me to visit, and I was kind of worried that it would fall flat whenever I introduced somebody to that place. So that made me feel really good. Showed them around, showed them the video game museum in the back, and Gerardo found something that he'd been looking for, 2 DDR games on the PS2 that he needed, and I said, dude, you should stream that. You know, you get on a regular basis, you'll be able to really, you know, get a following. You'll be known as the guy that plays the DDR games and all that fun stuff. So maybe he will. That would be cool. I'd watch that. You know, if someone's good at DDR, that's a skill I have an appreciation for. Also, the music's good in the background too. But this is kind of weird for me because I couldn't find anything that I wanted. There were some things that were query of an eyebrow raising, but nothing that was making me go, I need that. And historically speaking, every time I've gone to Game Over, well, I didn't get anything last year. It was the year before that I found XCOM. So, I mean, you know, this is the point where I'm getting in my video game library career that I'm slowly starting to run out of things that I want that were falling into the common/uncommon category. Now we're getting into the rare and or exotic territory, which is unfortunate. I had made mention in a previous video that the first time I was coming back from SGC that I was making a fair dime back then, and I had overloaded my suitcases with so many games that I was well past the 50-pound limit. I think I was like 62 pounds or something like that. That's 12 pounds of video games, all carts, you know, NES and SNES. You know, that's saying something right there. And I was just buying something. Oh, that looks cool. I'll buy that. Oh, it's Populous for the Super Nintendo. I'll get it. I have no idea how well or bad Populous plays with or without the SNES mouse. So it is what it is. So that was a little weird to walk into Game Over and then walk out empty-handed. And I figured that I would find something at the other location on Lamar, and I didn't. But it's important to me to go ahead and make that pilgrimage because there is a connection in Screw Attack history that is Game Over. So it would not feel proper to go to Austin and not visit that place. But also it was important for me to go ahead and share that location with Gerardo and John. So we went ahead and made our way over from the West Anderson location to the Lamar location, which is a little bit smaller and doesn't have as expansive a video game museum as the West Anderson one. If you go back and watch the video with Craig and Tom, basically in the back left corner of there, they have a glass display case that wraps around the back area of the room in kind of a U shape. And inside there, they have video game consoles dating back from Generation 1 to present day. So we have like this Magnavox Odyssey, you know, TV Fun, a bunch of Pong machines, and of course, you know, getting up to the Atari 2600, the Intellivision, the ColecoVision, the Atom computer, you know, getting into the more obscure stuff like the CDX, the Sega CDX, and the JVCI, and, you know, things of that nature. So the other location is just one corner, and they've only got a couple of things in there. But the other location's unique that they actually have a, in the back wall, there's kind of like a, I really don't know how to describe it. You walk through an open doorway, and then there's another room back in there, and it's all just artwork, you know, of either freehand drawing, sketch work, or pixel art, or perler art, or even, you know, mosaic painted tile stuff, kind of like Square Painter does. Nowhere as good as a Square Painter painting, but, you know, their heart's in the right place. And they've always had those for sales. They had a really badass one of Metal Gear Solid that I saw last year. I guess they finally sold that, so it is what it is. He who hesitates is toast. So after that, it was done. We were getting on towards 1 o'clock at that point, and we decided to go over to Michi Ramen, and that's when we found out they only do takeout. That particular location only does takeout. There's no dining area, and they don't sell beverages. So this kind of left us in an awkward position of, well, what do? We're hungry. We need food. And the other Michi restaurant that John had dinner at when he first got into Austin was like another good 20-minute drive away. And we were like, well, I need to get back to Dallas. You know, Gerardo can't be hanging out all day as much as he'd like to. He's got stuff he's got to do back at home. We got to figure something out. And there was a taco shack at the very end. Well, not a shack. It was in a building, but, you know, a taco restaurant at the very end of the strip center called Torchy's. And their tagline is damn good tacos. And they have a kids menu, the darn good kids menu. It was in there that we got, I got 2 tacos called, one was called the green chili. It was a pulled pork taco, although the consistency of the pork was very rich, almost like bacon. It was wonderful, and it had a big slice of avocado on top of it. And the other one I got, I don't know if it was just because I was starting to kind of let it sink in that my vacation is almost over. The other taco I got was called the Crossroads, which was shredded pork, chicken, and beef with a sour cream sauce. And it was delightful, but it was just kind of like, it sounded really good. It tasted really good, but the name just kind of like, oh, that's kind of where we're at right now. Getting a little real and somber, I apologize, but, you know, that's what was going through my mind at the time, and we all sat down and listened and, you know, talked about family history, finding out that Laurie's family has 16 brothers and sisters. Goodness gracious, that's a big family. You know, and she thought that was normal till she met John, where, you know, the families are considerably smaller, you know, and I'm wondering if that's a Midwest thing, because she's been in Wisconsin all of her life. My father was born in Illinois, and he was the 7th of 8. You know, maybe that's just the thing out there, or I don't know. But that was interesting, and it was also hearing Gerardo's family history and how he was born in New York, then moved to Columbia for like 29 years, then moved to California, then moved to Dallas, and, you know, now he's living the dream. So, you know, that was you know, to give the too long didn't read version of, you know, where he came from and how he coming to America, you know, that hearing that story. That was neat and cool. But then, of course, you know, we had to part company and go our separate ways, because while I'm in town till Wednesday, John leaves for Wisconsin tomorrow. So he and Laurie had to, whoops, knock this fortune cookie off. That was by an accident, but we'll be getting to that in a hot second. So it was time to go ahead and say our goodbyes, and I almost forgot. I am not a spontaneous person, and I'm not big on physical comedy as much as I am on the mental sliver joke. But, you know, it was one of those moments where when we were going to Torchy's, we were like, where is it? There it is. Where it is, there it is. And John's like, there it is. And I just like ran up and jumped on back of him like we were doing a piggyback ride, and we just charged forward. And Laurie was saying, John, be careful, and Gerardo couldn't stop laughing. It was just, you know, a lighthearted moment, you know, what I desperately needed at the time. I'm not very big on that kind of comedy, but for some reason, it just, you know, let's fire on all 8 and see what happens, and it worked. So, had to go ahead, say goodbye. Lunch was delightful. Ducked into, I'm forgetting things already. I'm sorry. It's getting late, but, you know, we ducked into a comic shop, and there was a whole bunch of interesting things going on, and John was seeing if the new Magic expansion had been released yet, but it's not. It's a, you know, work in progress. And Gerardo says, you know, it's like they keep doing all these silly things and I just wait for the trade paperback, you know, and that's the smart thing to do. I really wish those trade paperbacks actually were printed out on a regular basis back when I was still reading, because waiting month to month, you know, that way when you get the trade paperback, you can just binge read it all at once rather than having to like live on a cliffhanger and worry about filler issues and stupid stuff like that. So, okay, then it really was time to say goodbye after that. Got a couple of group pictures and took Gerardo back to his place. And it was hard to say goodbye because, you know, it's now that all the Screw Attack guys have moved down to Austin, and I typically fly into Dallas because it's cheaper and then just drive down, you know, I just can't drop into town and then get the okay to come over because it's not their building anymore. It's just weird. So anytime that I get to hang out with Gerardo, I treasure it because I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to do that again. You know, it's weird. Time is changing. Times are changing. Things are moving ever forward. So got the hugs and said the goodbyes and made sure he didn't forget his DDR games because he was like, don't let me forget. And it's like, don't worry, buddy. I won't forget. So then it was time to go. And I started making the drive. And then I started seeing signs for Bucc-ee's. Bucc-ee's rest stop. And Bucc-ee's, for those of you who don't know, go ahead and pause this video and go to your favorite search engine and type in BUCK-EE''S. And you'll see a little bucktooth beaver logo and check it out. It's some people call it the redneck Walmart. I call it delightful. It's basically take a supermarket, general store kind of a thing with a gigantic gas station and a car washing facility all rolled into one. It's the best qualities of a Sheetz, a Wawa, and, you know, a large department store all rolled into one, and it is loud. There are so many people in there, and it doesn't feel claustrophobic, but it's a unique experience. They've got their own brand for every flippin' thing. They've got bagged candies and other sorts of confections. I tried to find something for Shelby that didn't have high fructose corn syrup or any corn products in it. Wasn't very successful outside of the beef jerky. Although I do think the chocolate covered pretzels would have worked, but I didn't want to take a chance, just on the off chance that I missed something. But I went through there and just wanted to soak up the Bucc-ee's experience. And man, they have so much flippin' stuff in there in a couple thousand square feet. It's just ridiculous. They have a made-to-order sandwich bar. They've got beef jerky and handmade fudge that you can buy by the pound. And there's something just so incredibly quaint of being able to walk into a business establishment that sells food and be able to buy it by the pound. I love that stuff. You can get as much as you need for the exact price that you're willing to pay. I really wish more people did that. I don't know why they don't, but it's all about fast production. And I really hope that it's someday they expand and they come east, because it is so much better than what we've got, and they pay their people really well. Starting wages between $12 and $14 an hour. Lead supervisor stuff is like $15 an hour, between 15 and 17, and management starts at 17. Folks, that's called a livable wage. That's crazy cool. You know, if I wasn't so fixed on trying to find a career in what I'm doing, and they had one of those nearby, I would work there. It seems like a happening place. You know, I would throw my hat in the ring for management. I've never worked in a managerial position in a place like that, but it was a cool-ass place. And I don't say that lightly about retail establishments, because I hate retail as a general rule, but there was a different air about that place. it was just so very cool. And I don't say that lightly because, like I said, I hate retail as a whole. I think it has really destroyed the fabric of the consumer culture of America. That, you know, the specialty shops have been run out of town on a rail, but, you know, it is what it is. Went in there, gassed up, and continued the drive back. And this is where I really got a chance to really get a feel for the cruise. I made mention in a previous TexaVlog that this thing did not have the same level of performance as the LTZ model that I had in 2014, but I definitely learned the strengths and weaknesses of the LT model of the Cruise. And the first thing that I learned is to turn the traction control off and keep it off. For those of you that don't know, traction control is used to limit the amount of power going to the drive wheels to prevent wheel spin, and that way the power is manageable. When that happens also, and apparently at least it felt like it to me, it was also limiting the transmission's response. It was taking longer to shift gears when the traction control was enabled. And when I turned that stuff off, boy oh boy, that car can move. Not as fast as the LTZ. You know, that thing had a turbo, but, you know, this thing could let all 150 some ponies. I have to assume it had to at least have that much of a power of an engine, but it was nimble, it was quick, it was fast, and it was responsive. So for those of you that have a firm control on your ability to handle a motor vehicle, turn the traction control off. You will have a completely different driving experience than you will if you had it turned on. The other nice thing was the little dial on the left hand of the steering wheel that was used for the cruise control. It actually, the dial up and dial down, what came into play a lot. I rarely ever actually touched the gas outside of getting to a target speed, and then I would lock in the cruise control. But if you go dial down, it would lower the speed, and if you dialed up, it would increase the speed. So I was actually able to go ahead and stay locked above you know, just slightly, only 5 miles over, but I was able to stay consistently locked at the entire speed that I wanted to be until I got just outside of Dallas and Denton on 35 North. It was really almost knocking that fortune cookie around again. It was really showing how much of a pleasant driving experience, even though I wouldn't call that the base model because it certainly had a lot of bells and whistles with it, but it certainly gave me a chance to really delve into the car. The Cruise LT, it gets a ringing endorsement for me as a mid-size automobile from Chevrolet. I much prefer the LTZ for the power and the speed and the size of the wheels and the tires that came with it. But, you know, if you're looking to buy a mid-size sedan, you know, as opposed to having a compact car, get it. Because also, on top of all that, the gas mileage was flipping great. Its target optimum fuel economy that I was hitting almost 41 miles to the gallon at about 60 miles per hour. That's freaking great. That is incredible. But I was driving the majority way back on 35 going almost 80, and I was still hitting 35 to 36 miles a gallon. That's freaking nuts. I can hit maybe 30 to 32 in my Cavalier going about 70, which is what I found to be its optimum fuel efficiency. And that thing only had 110 ponies. You know, I mean, and it was nowhere as spacious on the interior, and the trunk is nowhere as large. I can fit 2 full-size 28-inch suitcases in the trunk of this Cruise. Phenomenal. Get it. It's a wonderful car. If you're looking for something that's domestically produced, it gets a ringing endorsement for me. If you have the money, get the LTZ model. Otherwise, the LT will serve you quite well. So I get back in town. I get a hot DM from Shelby saying, hey, let me check the time here real quick. I got 17 minutes. Okay, we got plenty of time. So we got, I keep saying we, me, myself, and I. That's what we're driving. So I get back into the outer limits of Dallas, getting a hot text from Shelby saying, what's your dealio? What's your plan? I said, I'll be back in town around 6:30. Do you want to hang out? And she said, yes. Do you want to go to dinner? It's like, yes. Okay. So go ahead, check into the hotel room, get in my room, this room, I knew what I was getting into when it's $42 a night, but there's certain things like half the lights in this room don't work. You know, if you notice, I'm not filming from across the desk. I'm filming from the bay window and having it face the other way because the lighting for the bay window works. This lamp is missing a light bulb. That one is fine. The light above the desk doesn't work. You know, it is what it is. So that's why I'm trying to get the best lighting that I can on it, because I just don't feel like dealing with the front desk clerks. But like I said, at $42 a night, I apologize for the crude lighting, but it is what it is. Go ahead, check in, head back over to Shelby's place. Go ahead and say hello to her parents, and her mother wanted a Sippysaurus, and Vinny had left them with me, so I want to make sure that she got a Sippysaurus. She got the blue one. And also, it was a chance for me to bring a couple of things that Shelby left in the room, notably her chocolate animal crackers and what else? Her OJ and coconut rum was all left in the room. So that was good to bring that back with her, because, you know, like those things are minor compared to her forgetting her keys. You know, that sucks. You know, accidents happen, and at least there was a things like, hey, little asterisk, here's a couple of things you forgot that, you know, excuse me, certainly cost some money that I'm sure you wouldn't mind getting back. So that was nice. And she said, you know, what do you want for dinner? I said, I want barbecue, because outside of having those ribs that I had at the corner, I had not had any proper Texas barbecue, because you can get ribs anywhere, but, you know, I wanted to get some barbecue, like legit Texas barbecue, because you have the 4 different kinds. You have Memphis, you have Carolina, you have Kansas, and you have Texas. Those are the 4 food groups for barbecue, and I definitely want to get some proper Texas while I was still here. And she said there was a place very close by to her house that we could go to, and it sounded great. And then her father suggested we go to the Hard 8 instead, which was a delightful experience. It was close to Frisco, actually. It was like on the way to the hotel for SGC 2015, so I kind of recognized the neighborhood that we were in once I saw the Kroger. Because I have all those dedicated to memory because of the Imperial Dr. Pepper, of which I still need to find some. So we got there, and she says, go ahead and look at this thing. And I thought she was talking about these, there's these hoses with these little misting spigots going on all over the place, and I thought that's what she was talking about. So I go and lean in, and I'm like inhaling the water and getting cooled off, and I'm like, Jericho, drink it in, man. And she's like, no, you stupid idiot, there's a sign here for how to place an order for food. That's what she was talking about, and laughing at me being a stupid idiot. So it was market styled ordering, which means you ordered things by the pound. And that's what we were going to do. And she was positively delightful and covered dinner. And, you know, that goes against my gentlemanly nature. But, you know, thank you, Shelby. Thank you very much. You're a wonderful person. But she got half a chicken, some smoked sausages, and a couple of stuffed jalapenos. And I got a half pound of brisket, corn on the cob, and a stuffed jalapeno as well. And those were just absolutely wonderful. Got a fountain drink. She had sweet tea. And then over by the fountain drinks, they actually have a bin for baked beans. And those were great. I believe they were pinto, but they were wonderful. I have not had brisket that amazing since I was in Chicago with DK at Smokes. It was great. I got 2 slices of wheat bread and quartered the bread up and was just pouring a little bit of the hot sauce on there. And I had a funny moment that she almost went into yip mode. Was the hot sauce wasn't that hot right away. When it went down the back of your throat, and then the autoimmune reaction kicks in that causes the burning sensation that fiery sauces are known to cause. It's when it gets hot and your voice like the back of your throat dries out mid-sentence. That's what happened to me, and it was quite funny, but it was delicious. I was starting to think maybe a half a pound was too much, but it seemed to be just right. She plowed through her chicken, plowed through the sausage, devoured those jalapenos. I probably should have gotten more of those poppers, but I think I was pushing my limits when I was getting to those last couple of bites of brisket, but it was so freaking good. Fall apart on your fork good. They were coming right out of a fire pit. And right across from the fire pit was a ceiling fan that had those Mr. hoses hooked up. Like I said, that was the coolest thing. But like you walk right past the pit and it was friggin' hot in there. So that's why they have those misters going all the time, to go ahead and cool off the patrons that are walking in through there. So dinner was done, dinner was in the bag, and we started making our way back to her place and got on the subject of songs and music and her recent love and discovery of like the true side of Radiohead, and talking about how she and the Earl of Freeze, Matt Freeze, Obsidian Sigma, and Dorian all went down to a concert to see them in Austin last fall, and it was just like, you know someone, and then you really get to know someone. Like finding out about their taste in music really can reveal a lot about them, and it just made me appreciate her that much more that she's gotten into that. So that's cool, and it's like, it gives me incentive to go ahead and check it out myself, because if she likes it, I might like it too. No harm in finding out about that stuff. That's cool things of trading notes of musical things and that nature. And then we got back to her place, and she said, you can either go or you can see me line edit some things. And I said, I want to see the master at work, because I've taught her a fair few things about streaming as I've learned things, but I still need to understand and how to learn and how to use Premiere. So I wanted to see her do her magic. And I not only learned a couple of things on editing a video and having certain scenes prepared with stuff that could be easily copy pasted for outros and stuff like that, rather than having to recreate them every single flipping time like I do. That's a really good idea. Having end slates prepared and all that fun stuff. Jesus Christ, that's a really good idea. I don't know how I didn't figure that out. I've been only smart enough to have the elements that I would need for those end slates in a bin, in my bin of elements and effects that I would need, but I never actually thought about having them assembled in a separate scene that I would just need to copy paste over. That's a really good idea. Also, not knowing that YouTube had the ability to have stuff automatically inserted into your description for your videos, so that way you would have that pre-typed every single time, or even having flipping tags that you would use every time for all of your videos. How did I not know that was there? So it was a very fruitful visit, and I learned something. So Shelby, thank you, because I'm a stupid idiot. I've certainly learned something. So then at that point it was time to say goodnight, because she has to get a root canal tomorrow, which is all sorts of fun. And that brings us back to here, back to this TexaVlog. How much time I got left? 7 minutes. We're doing great. So that's where we're going to call it right there. Tomorrow, if she's not so hopped up on Novocaine and everything, we're probably going to go ahead and hit up the Video Game Museum in Frisco once she gets out of work. It was just being opened in 2015, and it was the where the VIP party was held for SGC 2015, and now the thing has been open and established for 2 years. I would very much like to see how it has developed and see how it looks compared to the Video Game Museum exhibit that was at the Smithsonian back in 2012. So that's the plan for tomorrow, and go ahead and just derp around in the DFW area for a little while. But before we sign off, one of the things on Sunday was that we had to go to PF Chang's to get the money cards dropped off for the Screw Attack people. And Chad had a fortune cookie and he said, I don't want it. And I said, I'll take it. So we're going to go and open the fortune and find out what it says. It says, a change of scenery will be good for you. Funny. I was just thinking the same thing. Tomorrow is promised to no one, but I have been thinking it's time to move and do something new. Maybe there's truth in that. Well, anyways, before I get deep and heavy and start going into something else, it's time to go and wrap this up. So that will do it for this edition of the TexaVlog. Got one more for tomorrow. So we'll check in for then. And until then, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And we'll catch you next time. Thank you, guys.